Providing Ukraine with hundreds of such long-range assets, and do you feel that there is a political will to provide Ukraine with such a large amount of long-range assets, long-range capabilities?
The Europeans alone could provide, let's say, a few hundred, but only the United States could provide several hundred, or into the, let's say, 1,000 systems. And that's the case, I'm afraid, across the board in all, whether we're talking about artillery ammunition, 155 millimeter shells, small arms ammunition, aircraft, whatever it is, we look to the United States if we're looking for high numbers. And it will take some time for the Europeans to ramp up their own production to be able to give more than, not small numbers, but limited numbers of systems to Ukraine. And again, in the summer of 2022, people like me said that there will be a munitions crisis by spring of 2023, because it was clear that Western arsenals were quite small. Our production capacity had shrunk over the last 20 odd years. Governments were not placing orders for more ammunition. And it was no surprise, absolutely no surprise, that we ran into a munitions crisis over the winter of 2022-23. And here we are now in the winter of 24-25, and it's only just beginning to ease because the orders that politicians put in, but European politicians put in last year, are beginning to pay off. But even those orders are too small to meet the demands that are likely to arise next year in 2025.
How do you see the main obstacle for this decision to be made right now? Is this obstacle in the White House, in the United States?
I think in the United States' case, the main obstacle is in the White House. I think Joe Biden has opinions from different views. It's generally regarded as understood that Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, is generally speaking in favor of giving Ukraine longer range missiles. And Jake Sullivan, who is the national security advisor, is much more cautious. And I think Biden himself tends to be more cautious because he's thinking about not just the good of Europe and Ukraine, he's thinking about his place in history and the danger of a war that could spin out of control in the last 3 or 4 months of his presidency. So I think that the main obstacle there is really the opinion of the White House. The opinions in the Pentagon seem more consistently pro-supply than anti-supply. But then in Europe, there is a real split. Insofar as it matters, Britain is very much in favor of Ukraine having long-range systems. France is fairly clear on that as well, but other European partners are not. And again, I mean, German attitudes are critical, not just because of the Taurus missile, but because I think German hesitancy affects other European nations, because Germany is a very important country in Europe, and Britain now is not part of the European Union, so we have less influence than we used to have. Even within NATO, our influence is less than it might be because of Brexit, leaving the European Union. So in that respect, we have diminished our own influence in defense and security, as in so many other things, by leaving the European Union. So Germany's hesitancy has a psychological effect on other European countries, not just within Germany itself, but on other partners. And the danger is that the Europeans, again, as always, look to the United States for the lead. If the US takes the lead, Europe will eventually follow, generally speaking. If the United States is not prepared to take the lead, the Europeans are not united enough to take over the lead from the United States. And that's been the issue for the last 40 odd years. It may well